India is looked at as a bulwark against China, the narrative that has floated, but not too much focus on how economically advantageous this relationship can be beyond just the fraught ties with China. What more needs to be done to ensure and to give out this important detail to people out there who are watching this? How important is the economic exchange between India and Taiwan going to be in the coming future?
I think China factor is always there whenever we talk about the regional supply chain, when we talk about India's relationship with countries such as US and Taiwan, and not just in economic terms as well as security. So, and I think it's partly true as well because India is the most effective Asian counterbalance to China, and this is how a lot of countries are looking at India as well. But of course, when it comes to economic relation, India is a rising economy. India is an economy that other countries cannot uh, even afford to overlook. And this is one of the reasons why we see countries such as Australia, Japan, and even Taiwan looking and trying to advance economic relations with Taiwan, with India. And in fact, I think there's a realization within Taiwan, among Taiwanese leadership, that they cannot really overlook in engagement with India. They have to reach out to India. They have to um, kind of engage India economically as well. And also, I think this is primarily since 2016 when President Tsai Ing-wen administration came to power, new southern policy was introduced, and the main reason for that was to reduce economic reliance on China and to adopt China plus one model. So how India is being viewed as a part of this China plus one model is very much that. And in fact, one of the ministers actually said that if we Taiwan do not engage India now, that means we will not be a part of India's growth story and we'll be missing out on that. So definitely in Taiwan, at least there's a realization that Taiwan has to engage India and India is an important economic partner and they cannot afford to not do that anymore.
Do you see India becoming a bigger priority at this point, given how its demographic dividend is making it more advantageous, let's say, at this point, as you pointed out? Uh, how do we see that momentum moving forward, and what are you picking up in terms of increasing bilateral trade between the two?
No, as an absolutely, demography is an asset for India, and India is now the largest population. It has the largest population now. So, absolutely, as in people are India's strength, India's asset. And I think a lot of countries really want Indian talent, and Taiwan is not an exception. Um, there are a lot of avenues for Taiwan to attract Indians, and this is what Taiwan is also looking at, not just the semiconductor, not just EV, but also the people from India. So there's definitely there, and as you rightly mentioned, the trade is increasing. So last year, the trade figure crossed 10 billion for the very first time in the history of India-Taiwan relation. So definitely now there are efforts to advance economic relations, be it the trade figure, be it investment. So I think moving forward, the effort from both sides is to perhaps advance economic ties so that the stakes in the relationship are increased. So if you ask me, and if you look at India's approach, I think the primary objective, the primary interest from India's side when it comes to Taiwan is to attract more and more investment, to increase trade figure, and also to perhaps get more expertise in the field of semiconductor. So I think this is India's immediate objectives.
While there is enough engagement on the side of semiconductors, because as we realize, it's the new oil, it's a necessity. Uh, but at the same time, are India and Taiwan exploring beyond just the semiconductor sector? Are they looking at other sectors as well?
No, absolutely. I think this is mostly media talks about. Of course, India has important interest in the semiconductor industry, and when it comes to developing India's semiconductor ecosystem, Taiwan is definitely on top. So I don't think that it's exaggerated, but I do feel that there are other sectors, as you rightly mentioned, that media and perhaps strategic community is not focusing on. Because whenever it comes to India and Taiwan, the first thing that comes to anyone's mind is semiconductor. But there's definitely a lot of cooperation that's happening in the sector of EV. EV is definitely the next upcoming area of cooperation between India and Taiwan. And Taiwan's Gogoro is already establishing its presence in India, and I think they're also starting battery swapping system, which is a success in Taiwan. And imagine in a country like India, if it could become a success, it would definitely take India-Taiwan relations to the next level. Apart from that, there are other sectors as well. Taiwanese footwear companies there are several footwear companies that are in India. So I feel that apart from semiconductor, I would say that EV is definitely something that we have to look at.
It's been more than 2 years of President Joe Biden's Indo Pacific strategy, also the European Union's Indo Pacific strategy. India somehow has been at the center of it. How effective has it been so far? Have you seen progress? And more so, what uh, else can be done to make India, or maybe perhaps utilize India's strengths when it comes to the Indo Pacific strategy, which you feel could contribute greatly to the enhanced connectivity of the region and also increasing security and peace?
Well, then India is as an Indo-Pacific it exists today primarily because of India, because India wasn't really a part of the Asia-Pacific narrative and the region. India was never accepted to the APEC as well. So definitely Indo-Pacific exists primarily because of India and how US and most importantly Japan identified India as an important partner in countering China, in addressing the China threat, I would say. So India is definitely a very, very important component of Indo-Pacific. If you take out India out of Indo-Pacific, there exists now Indo-Pacific. That is for sure. And this is just not, my personal view. If you look at countries' policies, countries' approach towards India, it's very much visible. So I do feel that it's how China has become aggressive and how these countries have realized that they have to come together to address the China factor. I think this has been a success, and it's definitely its action-oriented policies are very much there. And I think India is the only country that's injecting the security component in the Indo-Pacific. India has recently exported the BrahMos missile to the Philippines, and I feel that I don't really see any other country doing that. And the South China Sea is the next flashpoint. I don't think there's any doubt. And then everyone keeps talking about Taiwan. Taiwan is definitely an important, a pressing issue, but we cannot ignore the South China Sea could be a theater of conflict between US, China, and China fighting with the Philippines. So I think we have to agree that India is the only country that is kind of bringing deterrence, peace, and stability in the Indo-Pacific region. So definitely, I feel that bringing India to the Indo-Pacific, bringing India to the mainstream and to the discussion has definitely proven to be a very effective strategy.